Hey everybody, welcome to My Movie Fix. I'm David, and today we're going to be going over the good and the bad of an Australian horror movie that I recently saw, thanks to a couple of recommendations that I found online. And we're going to be going over the good things about this movie that really drew us in, brought us into the movie, and held our attention throughout. And also some of the bad things that maybe were unintentionally funny, that really pulled us out of the movie and made us kind of wonder, I wonder what they were thinking about here. And so we're going to be going over these good and bad points, and since no movie is perfect, we're going to be going in every single time hoping for the best, although sometimes definitely preparing for the worst, especially if it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, because he's definitely had enough chances.
Where'd you get this? On the shelf.
His name is Mr. Babadook, and this is his book. A rumbling sound, then 3 sharp knocks. Babadook, dook, dook. That's when you'll know he's around. You'll see him if you look.
So The Babadook is a horror movie starring Essie Davis, who plays Amelia, who is a widower who is still very much mourning the loss of her husband, who actually died on the very same day that her son was born, and for this reason, she harbors a lot of dislike for her son. And during this time, she reads to him a storybook called Mr. Babadook, which tells a story about this crazy, scary-looking Charlie Chaplin who sneaks into people's rooms at night and scares the pants out of you.
Hello?
And from here on out, a lot of crazy things go on as Amelia really starts to see a lot of premonitions of this Babadook creature, which starts to haunt her family, and really brings out the culmination of that grief that she still feels for the loss of her husband. So one thing that I was really on the fence about through most of the movie, and really almost kept me from watching the rest of the movie, was Samuel. So the first 20 minutes, he's really gonna annoy the crap out of you. Like, he's gonna do everything in his power. He's gonna scream, and he's gonna yell, and he's gonna throw fits, and you are going to hate him. I mean, hate him. I did. I wanted to kill this kid. But I'm not gonna give it a bad, because when you watch the movie, if you haven't already, those of you who have, you know what I'm talking about. Everything is going to turn around on you. The tables are going to turn, and you're going to see that this was all done intentionally. The kid is annoying for a reason. This isn't a Dakota Fanning in War of the Worlds where she's just screaming her head off and she has no purpose to the story whatsoever. This kid is actually very much essential to the story. His annoyingness is really going to set the mother on edge, which really is one of the sources for why she's going to vent a lot of her frustration later on in the movie. And where at first, the mom and us as an audience, we wanted to just, strangle the little kid, by the end of the movie, we're actually going to be feeling sorry for the kid, and we're going to be feeling less sorry for the mom because of her unwillingness to really get that grief out of her. And at the point where she's really starting to consider what we as an audience were thinking ourselves, killing the kid, we're going to turn around and think, whoa, wait, you can't actually do that. We were just kidding. Killing your son would be murder?
You little pig. 6 years old and you're still wetting yourself. You don't know how many times I wished it was you, not him, that died.
I just want you to be happy.
I just want you to be happy. Sometimes I just want to smash your head against a brick wall.
So the fact that the kid's annoyingness actually plays into the story, but you have to suffer through it in order to get that kind of satisfaction, I'm going to give it half a point on the bad meter and half a point on the good meter. Because didn't really appreciate it until I got through it, and so that was one of the things that almost made me turn off the movie, but because I stuck it out, I was able to see where they were going with that, and I actually felt good because of it. So stick through it, you'll hate yourself, but by the end of the movie, you'll realize, okay, it was worth it. So if you've watched the trailer, you'll probably recognize as much as I have that this movie does a bad job in the marketing department. Someone there should really get his butt fired, because this film is marketed as a horror monster movie, and it's not. I'll tell you right now, it's not. This movie is not a monster movie. Actually, what it is more, it's in the spirit of The Shining. It's a descent into madness. So just as Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson in The Shining, goes through a lot of horrific events that really turns his character, Amelia is going to do the exact same thing, and her grief is really going to culminate into this frustration that she's going to vent, and she's going to come out as a lot of violence on her family and on herself. So this is not a monster movie. This is actually a very symbolic movie. It's very smart, and that's what I appreciate about it. It's very, very subtle, and it scares. And so that's one point that I really want to make, is that the scares are subtle. You are scared. You feel that those goosebumps coming up your skin, and it's not the movie thinking, hey, audience, be scared. This part is scary. You know, like other horror movies, Paranormal Activity. And this movie is actually just going to let you kind of decide for yourself what parts are scary and what aren't. And I think it really plays into the audience, you know. It really gives you that opportunity to feel creeped out. It really gets under your skin, and even after the movie's over, you're not thinking, oh boy, there were parts in that movie that really jumped out at you, that really startled you. No, I was really freaked out after this movie, and I was really not looking forward to picking up any phones later.
He's been making phone calls to me as well.
What's he been saying?
Nothing, just making these noises.
How do you know it's the same person?
Because of what he wrote in the book.
The book you burnt.
Yes.
The thing that you'll notice most about this movie, perhaps, if you're a horror fan, is that it borrows a lot of elements from other horror films, most especially The Conjuring, which is another film that I really liked, and I watched that a while back, and you'll notice that a lot of elements are taken from that story, most especially the fact that the wife's relics of her husband are hidden within a basement door that's under the staircase, and it's pretty much set up the house itself in the same way as The Conjuring.
Don't go down there. It's not safe.
Let's just face a horrible truth. Movies borrow and lend willy-nilly. John Carter, Star Wars Episode 2, they all borrow from Gladiator. The Walking Dead borrows its very first scene from 28 Days Later. Hellraiser is borrowed from the life of Lindsay Lohan. All of these things are borrowed, lend, it's things that are pulled apart from other movies that may have been considered good to add to their movie and hopefully give them that illusion of effectiveness, and to give it that idea to audiences that, hey, our movie's good too, because this is from a good movie. Only if it's done well can it really add to the story, can it add to the movie and make it its own thing. Like the new James Bond, the Daniel Craig ones, really take a lot of elements from the Bourne series, and they do it fantastically well. I love it. I love the way they've gone with James Bond. I do miss the wacky Roger Moore stuff. I love it. I think it's so tacky, I think it's hilarious. But the new things that they've been doing with the James Bond series has also really added something new to the story, made it its own, and this movie, The Babadook, is doing the same thing with horror movies that it has taken elements from, like The Grudge, like The Conjuring, and I think that it does very well, and it's something that's not insulting to us as an audience.
I think I'll just find another school.
Mrs. Fennick, you can't just take the boy out of school.
You look after your business and I'll go and find a school that sees my son as a human being and not just as another problem to be gotten rid of.
That's very unfair. We're only trying to help the boy.
Please, stop calling him the boy. His name is Samuel.
Now let's talk about something that's bad about the movie. And I think that it really brushes over this fact, and it really shouldn't have, because we find out that this kid, son Samuel, is actually a god, or at least a very powerful wizard.
Nothing in my hands, nothing in my hands.
That's great.
I haven't finished. Abracadabra!
How did you do that?
How? So this kid is a wizard. But where does he learn this magic from?
It can be a wondrous thing, but it can also be very treacherous. In this DVD, you will learn.
So the TV people showed this kid how to be a wizard. The TV people. Yeah. So I would say the fact the kid is a wizard, or god, or wherever you'd like to see it, really did take me out of the movie, and for that reason I will give it 1 point on the bad meter. Now another bad thing about this movie that I'll definitely mention, because I actually laughed out loud when I heard this, and if you can guess already what I'm talking about, it's in 3 words: stock sound effects.
You're trespassing in my house!
Now, if you're a horror fan like me, you probably will have recognized that sound used many times in other films or even TV. It is the most generic, scary sound that you could possibly plug into a film, and the fact that it was done at the climax of the film, where we're really starting to get that tension, where it's really pulling you in as to, is this going to happen? Is this going to end well for the family? And then you hear that, I laughed. And I'm sure that's not what they intended by it. And for that reason, I'm also going to give this point to the bad. Now I'm going to give a really big point for the good, for cinematography for this movie, for particularly one special scene, which I'm going to show you here in a second, where Amelia is in the kitchen, and she's really trying to figure out what's going on in my life right now. Things are freaking out, I'm freaking out, I need to find what's going on. And in the background, as you can see, you think, oh my gosh, there's the Babadook. It's right behind her. It's right there. Like, oh my gosh. And then she turns around and she starts to walk toward it. And at that moment, I'm like, oh, whoa, don't you see that? And that's when we get a clear shot of that background scene, and as it focuses, we realize it wasn't the Babadook at all. It was just 2 panes of window. And you realize, whoa, this movie is making me see the Babadook everywhere. And for that point, for cinematography, I have to give this one to the good, because this movie actually does a really good job of making you think you're seeing the Babadook everywhere. You yourself, as an audience, are also being haunted by its presence, as silly as the Babadook probably looks when it's in full presence.
This is what he wears on top. He's funny, don't you think?
Now, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I love The Shining. I thought it was great. I thought it went really well, and Jack Nicholson made a great performance in that movie. But the biggest problem that I had with The Shining and with Jack Nicholson playing Jack Torrance in that film is that Jack Nicholson already kind of looks like a crazy person. He already looks like someone who is about to flip out and go all full berserk, full Hulk on everybody. Whereas Essie Davis, while she looks hurt and she looks wounded, shows us at the beginning of the movie that she's actually a very considerate and very patient person who's trying to make the most out of her situation. And we see her turn around and really become herself a monster, the one that she's been hiding within herself. And for that reason, I would say that this movie successfully shows us that descent into madness, which, I know the book does it very well, but The Shining, I honestly felt that it was lacking. I honestly wanted more of the reason why Jack Torrance is going crazy. Why is he really starting to let out his demons? And this film, The Babadook, does that. It does that very well throughout the story. It sets up those two characters, the mom and her son. It shows us why she really has those frustrations. It shows us that she's keeping him in, she's trying her hardest, but these events have really just brought it all out, and she just can't take it anymore. And this moment is the culmination of all of her grief that she has held on to for the last 7 years. So from what we can see here, it looks like this movie definitely has more good points than it has bad. And so for that reason, I would definitely recommend this movie because honestly, let's just say it right now, I love this movie. I thought it was fantastic. I love the fact that it gave me the chills, it creeped me out, it definitely turned a lot of elements on its head. I thought some things were silly, I thought some things were ridiculous, but by the end of the movie I was realizing why it was all there. It wasn't just a hack job, it wasn't the filmmakers trying to, force their way into our heads. It was really something that was done artistically, and I was scared. I was honestly scared, and I know that scaring can be different for some people. Some people can be scared by paranormal activity. Some people are scared by the Babadook. Other people look at you like you're a weirdo. A lot of people do to that. But I was honestly scared by this movie. I loved it. I thought it was smart. I thought it was great. Cinematography, the sound will scare the crap out of you. And so for that reason, I'm going to say this movie is gold. And so if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. If you have seen it, you know what, go watch it again, go buy it. I'm definitely going to go get this movie and, enjoy it. Nitpick it as much as you want because there's a lot of great things to pull out of it. Is it a monster movie? Maybe I'm wrong. Is it symbolic? Maybe it is. You guys can decide for yourself. So, thanks for watching my Movie Fix reviews. I'm David again, and we'll go ahead and see you next time when we do another movie. And as a little hint, I'll let you know that the next movie that I'll be reviewing is quite amazing. See you next time.